We're tackling a particularly difficult topic this Thursday, a conflict dating back a century that continues to poison and imperil generations of Israelis and Palestinians. I'm joined now by members of the American Friends of the Parents Circle Families Forum, a group that unites families on both sides of the conflict through their shared grief. Christopher Beachy is the group's development and communications manager, and he joins us here in studio. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
We're also welcoming Mohamed and Yuval, both of whom we're going to identify just by first names only, and both have lost an immediate family member in the conflict, one Palestinian and one Israeli. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you. Good morning, Ann.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And if you want to join the conversation, you are welcome to. You can call us at 904-549-2937. You can also email firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can reach out on social media, and my guests have assured me that they're up for hard questions. So feel free to call in with your questions or comments. Christopher Beachy, your organization is in town to hold some events. Some are open, some are not, but what is the goal of these events? It's kind of a dialogue that you're having with the community.
That's correct. So on Saturday is the first public event that we're having. It's going to be at St. John's Cathedral. It's a dialogue meeting featuring these two gentlemen. So essentially, Yuval and Mohamed will share their stories, and then we will open it up to questions and answers from members of the community.
What is the goal of an event like this?
Yuval, what would you say? Yuval and Mohamed, what would you say the goal of this event is?
Yeah. First of all, it's an introduction to our work at Palestine and Israel, working in the ground with the people. And it's also, we saw, because we are connected with American friends at the Parents Circle, we saw how is big the gap between pro-Palestinian and pro-Israelis here. And we are giving them examples that if me and Yuval, who lost our family members, can sit and talk, I think they can also sit and talk.
I think, as Mohammed said, our main goal is to demonstrate that taking sides is not going to take us anywhere. Not there and not here in the United States, where people take sides because they really believe one side is right and the other is wrong. And we said both sides are victims, and we need support to get together, to get our leaders to sit together and end this conflict that is, as you said, 100 years old, and is not going to, and nobody's going to go anywhere. No nation is going to disappear. We are doomed to live there together in the Holy Land, and here and everywhere else, people need to get together, Jews and Muslims, and other faiths as well, to help us bring our leaders to sit together and end this conflict for the benefit of the residents of our region and all over the world.
Yuval, if you're comfortable, tell us about your own experience with loss in this conflict.
Well, I lost my father in the War of '67. I was 8 years old. It was many years ago. It didn't convert me into a peace activist at the time. I was just, full of hate and rage and fear of Arabs. And I really thought that I'm going to continue the war with them through becoming a military. But many years gone by, and I understood that this is not as simple as it is. And we must sit together and this conflict for the sake of my children and grandchildren.
And is it my understanding correctly that it was your mother who sort of steered you into a group that was talking about reconciliation? Or how did you come to
No,
that?
actually, it was my kids.
Oh.
They not drive me into it. They just started to go to the army because, mandatory service in Israel. And I understood what they're doing there. And that rose some questions for me, like what am I doing as a citizen to take some responsibility of the future of this country. So that was at the age of 50 where I decided to become activist.
And was it a specific moment where your heart and mind changed, or was it sort of an evolution?
It was an evolution, but the tipping point, the point that I really made my mind is, again, as I told you, my oldest son started to come back to vacations from the army, and I understood that the stories we've been told are completely false, and that we are not really defending the country by keeping the territories, but really occupying Palestinians.
Mhm.
And that our kids go to army to maintain this occupation. It's true that we need to defend our country, but this is not the way. The best way to defend Israel is to make peace.
Mohammed, if you are comfortable, tell us about your own family circumstance and how you came to this group.
Yeah. First of all, my mother directed me to.
It was
Was
your
it
mother.
Yeah. Yeah, my mother directed me to the Parent Circle because she works with women and part of the Parent Circle women group. They have activities for women, and it's a long story. But Ruby Damlin, the international spokeswoman for the Parent Circle, was in our house 2016, and was my first time to meet Israelis. Civilians, Israelis, not in the military.
Like it was a
jeeps.
meeting your mother was hosting of the parent circle?
Yes, she was hosting a dialogue meeting like what we will do here. And it was the first time for me to meet Israelis. I said hi, I entered my room. It's not a big deal. Then I asked my mother why there is Israelis in our house. She told me this is a dialogue meeting. She talked about her son, and I talked about my son, and it was a gather of bereaved families from our neighborhoods, and a lot of women talked about their loss and they cried together. So I told her, is that kind of group therapy that you do? You talk about your grieving and cry together. In sarcastic way, she told me, no, this is the Parent Circle. They have other projects. They have the parallel narrative, which is Palestinians and Israelis talking about their narrative and how they are different in every aspect. And they discuss it in a project of 2 months, meeting in weekends. And you should go. And I went. 2 weeks later, I was in the meeting.
Were you resistant to going?
Yes.
Talk
Yes.
about that. I mean, tell us why you would have gone to the meeting in the first place. What was the loss that you suffered?
Yes. First of all, I lost my brother 2002. I was 14 and he was 16. He got shot from an Israeli tank, and they prevented ambulances and everyone from helping him. 12 people got injured, 10 school kids and 2 journalists from Associated Press. And this event led me to study nursing 4 years later.
So,
So
he was injured by a soldier, and then
it's
nobody
a tank.
could help him.
Yeah, it's a tank, Israeli tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
And others were injured, including.
Yes,
reporters.
the school kids tried to help him, and they start to shoot around his body, so no can around him, come around him, and the tanks start to do circle around his body. It was a big and it's traumatizing event, not for my family, but also for the neighborhood, because many school kids witnessed this event, and it was scary for them. And so my interaction with Israelis was always in the checkpoints and in the military jeeps and in the tanks. So my mother told me that you should go to this parallel narrative project. I said yes, this kind of yes that you said to your parents to
Get them off your back.
yeah. So I said yes, and during these 2 weeks, I looked on Google on the website and what they are doing. I felt a lot of curiosity because they are hugging each other and doing things like there's nothing happening in this world, like there's no occupation, no one getting killed every day. So I was curious what they are doing, but it's 90% force and 10% curiosity. I went to the meeting because my mother insisted, and Palestinian mother are so strong that they make you do things.
You can't say no to mom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so you went to that meeting and you went reluctantly, but
Yeah.
curiosity,
Yeah.
carried you a little bit of the way. How long did it take, for the message of that group to resonate with you or in some way push back the anger that you were feeling over your brother's
Mm,
death?
yeah. The anger I feel every day when I cross checkpoints. Yeah. We always feel angry at checkpoints because, it's kids at checkpoints and they control your life. Like I was with my fiancée going to Bethlehem, to Beit Jala, to our office to introduce her to my colleagues in the Palestinian office, and we spent 4 hours at the checkpoint, and it was from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Then eventually I drove back to our city, Jenin, and I called the office and told them we can do it. And it was this was last month, and till now I checked the checkpoint. It's always busy, so I didn't even take a risk to do it again.
So you went, waited, and then turned around and went back
Yeah,
without crossing.
no, without the crossing, because it will take another 2 hours to Beit Jala. Then there's another checkpoint, and maybe it will be closed. You don't know. So it was sunny and exhausting. So the first meeting I met Israelis face to face was in the parallel project, parallel narrative, and it starts with introducing each other. Everyone introduce himself. It's a circle, and they start to introduce themselves. And one of the participants said that he served in the Israeli army in 2002 to 2006, 2005. Sorry. So for me, I couldn't handle this. I left the circle. I felt shivering. I was sweating, shivering. My hands were shivering, and I was angry, flushed. I went to restroom to wash my face and looked in the mirror and said, why I am doing this? Why I am meeting these people that occupying us, and they go to the army that killing my brother, and maybe this guy killed my brother. I don't know. No one knows who killed my brother. No one ever will know. So the Palestinian facilitator came and told me, that they are all in the army and it's obligatory before you're coming. Why you left? I told him I can't dare to be in the same room with this guy because he said that he is in the army, and I want to leave. And I was in Beit Jala, which is 3 hours. I noticed that 3 hours drive here is nothing, but it's a big deal in West Bank. So 3 hours drive, and he told me I will bring you a taxi, but please come to the next activity. They have a well-organized activities that they like start with introduction, then to talk more about your personal story, then the other person.
You kind of
that-
get to know them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So after these activities, eventually I know that he is kind, generous, and he's pro-peace, and he against occupation and against what was happening back then. And this was my breakthrough, that I know that there is a human in the other side. There's a human beings.
Yuval, I want to ask you about the conscription of Israelis into the army, into the Israeli Defense Force. How does that, as Mohammed alludes to, I mean, when you are encountering soldiers, that experience is very negative for someone like Mohammed, and yet people are really required to do that service, which seems like it might be sort of a disservice in the interest of a non-militant, armed future.
Well, it's different when you look at it from Israeli perspective. Israel was formed and existed in many ways in a hostile area and had to defend itself for many years. So being being in the army is a privilege. It's not just because you are, a militant person. It's part of being an Israeli. So all the boys and girls after high school, they have to go to the army and make this their military service. and it's part of being part of the culture. It's
Mhm.
not for killing Palestinians. It's not for attacking them. It's for really the defending of your state. It's like serving your state.
Mhm.
I think it's the problem is that Palestinians don't have this kind of service. So emotions that are related to nation and how to save your nation often find their ways to different outlets. And I had a 6-year service. My kids all went to the service, and it doesn't matter that you can be pro peace and still defend your country.
Mhm.
But as I said, the leadership of the country need to take this into a different direction, not using the force as a way to continue the occupation, but using its mind to sit down and end the conflict. And then the army will have to go down to its basic purposes to just defend the state.
We've got a call. Don Juan from Jacksonville. Good morning. Welcome to First Coast Connect.
Hello.
Go ahead, Don.
Oh, hi. Good morning, everyone. My question is, I wanted to get maybe your thoughts about what you hear from the pro-Israel crowd, particularly mostly the conservatives, who state that Palestinians support Hamas, and that's why they are being targeted overall. And this is a narrative that goes through, and they base it on when Hamas was elected into office back in the early 2000s. I wanted to get your thoughts about if this is accurate or not. And at the same time, the other argument about Hamas uses Palestinians to get their goals, and they don't care if they get killed, even if they're on their own people.
Would one of you care to take that question?
Yeah, it's
Mohamed?
okay. Yeah. He said pro-Israel said about Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the question.
Maybe I'll start.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think as much as I dislike Hamas is the fruit of the prolonged conflict and the fact that there's no solution for Palestinians. So this is how they grow, the Hamas. It doesn't just come up out of nowhere. And the way to fight Hamas is to just end the conflict. Hamas only feeds on the frustration and the despair of the Palestinians in Gaza. And the fact that the Palestinian Authority could not make an agreement is not just because they're weak, it's just because they didn't have a partner in Israel to continue the Oslo process. So with this frustration and despair, that's a great soil to grow weeds like Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying Hamas is good. I'm just saying it has a consequence. It has a cause that made this possible.
Christopher, I want to ask you, because this is obviously a long-standing and really intractable seeming problem, but I imagine the work that you do and that all of you do has gotten a lot more difficult since October 7th. How has that changed your approach to trying to engage in a conversation about reconciliation and peace?
That's a really great question. Yeah, it has become enormously difficult since October 7th. As my colleagues in the parent circle often like to say, that the conflict has been wholesale imported into the United States, such that you have, and this is, a huge impetus behind why we're here in the U.S. and doing these types of events, is because our call is to be not pro-Israeli, not pro-Palestinian, but to be part of the solution. And so that, I feel like, always informs it. And that's why, before we came on air today, we had said, like, don't pull any punches when it comes to the hard questions, because we're okay with that, because that's not something that we're afraid of. We can, it's, the very nature of this organization is such that it demonstrates that peace is possible. That if two people like Yuval and Mohamed can stand on a stage together, it demonstrates that peace is possible and that reconciliation is possible. So why would we be afraid of hard questions from people?
But even among your staunch membership, who have put up with a lot of loss and a lot to overcome, has it gotten more difficult for them? Have you had attrition because of the violence and the extreme loss of life?
Yeah, there was a lot of really hard conversations in the time immediately after October 7. Yuval, if you want to talk more
Yeah,
about that.
just the fact that we're talking about peace doesn't say it's easy.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult. It's always difficult, and it became even harder after October 7th. I think that the first day that the first Saturday the event started, we understood that we are going to face a really, really hard time now, mainly for Palestinians. So we immediately gathered with the team. On the organization, we have a team of Israelis and Palestinians that manage the operation, about 20 people. We gathered them together at the same day online, and we said, no matter what's going to happen, we're going to stick together, because this is the only place where Israelis and Palestinians can still talk, no matter how hard it is. And it's been really, really hard 5 months for us at the team and with our membership. But we knew that we have no other choice.
Do you have any strategies when you're encountering the news and trying to have those dialogues?
We're trying to focus on what we have to do, what we can do, because many of the operations that we had so far became impossible to exercise because the borders are closed, and there's much less willingness to hear our story now, both on Palestine and Israel. So we're looking for what can be done in these times, and it's mainly online. So we do a lot of online activity, and we still continue. Our message now is holding on to humanity, and this is the message that always goes through. And we discovered that both in Israel and Palestine, people really are. There are still a lot of people that are really eager to hear what we have to say, although everybody became really nationalist and pro one side. We still stick to the message that both sides are victims, and we must end this conflict for the benefit of Israelis and Palestinians. No matter how high was the cost, we paid a lot of cost, Israelis and Palestinians. It's not by prolonging this war that it's going to solve anything. It's by ending it and sitting down, and not just returning the hostages and releasing the prisoners. It's ending the conflict once and for all.
Chris alluded to the fact that this is a conflict that has been imported wholesale to the United States. And we actually have a question about that from Mike on Facebook, because our own city council here in Jacksonville has passed a resolution in support of Israel, almost unanimously passed. And the one vote against it was someone whose background is, from the Palestinian area. That's, where his family originates. But Mike on Facebook says, Council Member Rory Diamond has called those who come to city council meetings upset about civilian deaths terrorist apologists and anti-Semites. Can you talk about how unhelpful such comments are?
It is, because the truth is that, as I said, both are victims, and Israelis kill Palestinians now. Palestinians try to kill Israelis now, and it's not taken anywhere. And I know I'm an Israeli, okay? I want everybody to support Israel. But I think the best support for Israel now is to push its leaders towards ending this war and ending the conflict. That's the best support. That's the best support that Israel can get from anybody anywhere in the world.
Mohamed, what do you think about somebody at the local level in Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, weighing in on the conflict like this? Does that seem appropriate or not? Does it matter to people in a conflict so far away?
Yeah. The first person I met in Jacksonville was the taxi driver, and he was from South Sudan. And the same problem that they have in South Sudan, that people don't know what's happening there. So they have, mainstream media, and they have one direction from Sudan. So they hear from officials from Sudan. This is before their independence, and it's like this now. It's for us. No one hears us. No one knows exactly what's happening to us. If I want to talk the small things that's happening, like the event in the cheekbones, it's traumatizing that, it's leave you speechless for days. it affects you in every aspect, that you don't have freedom, you don't have anything to do, and you can't change it. And this despair leads people to be, Hamas leads people to be more radical. And the most important thing that people should know, that there is a human on the other side. And this is the essence of our work, that we focus on the human side. We focus on this in every activity. We have summer camp for Palestinian and Israeli kids. And the kids, believe me, they have more human values than adults. They are not affected with politics. They're not affected with what adults have. They are pure, and they are friendly, and they become friends on the first day, on the second day, Palestinian and Israelis. And one of the activities is putting yourself on other shoes. And this is one of the ways that the kids understand what the feeling of the other side.
So we're talking with members of the American Friends of the Parents Circle Families Forum. It's a group that unites families on both sides of the conflict through shared grief. We have a message from Stacy on Facebook. She says, "Thank you for bringing the personal stories of these men to us. It's powerful and has helped me understand the conflict better. I support a peaceful two-state solution, and I hope to see it in my lifetime." We also have a question from Ed on Facebook. He says, "There are 70 majority Muslim countries and 22 Arab nations in the world, including Egypt that borders Gaza. Why are none of them accepting any refugees from Gaza, not even the women and children?"
It's a good question. Why they should accept refugees?
Why should this have to be?
Yeah.
Why should this have to be the?
Why
the
should
solution?
refugees? I am a refugee. I am from Jaffa, and in '48, my grandfather ran from Jaffa in the Nakba in '48 to Jenin, and most of Gazans are refugees. So it's for them. I know the feeling that I rather prefer to die, not to be refugee again. Being refugee is not something good. Like it's not only trauma, it's not only memories. It's also that you will. It's not a stigma, but it's nearly a stigma. You will be refugee whenever you have whatever level you will be in the society. You will still refugee, and I don't people like who sense this and taste this in their life, they will never do it again. And I feel the people in Gaza that they can't do this. Maybe some of them will do this, but because since October 7th, we felt that they will kick us to Jordan in West Bank. And most of the people in our neighborhood said, we will not go, we will die here.
Having been displaced, not wanting to be displaced again and live permanently as a refugee. Yuval.
I think we as Jews, we've been refugees for 2,000 years. We of all nations should know that any nation should have, any people should have the right to live on their land. And there's no way to transfer the Palestinians outside of Palestine. They will always want to go back there. So the only solution is to let them live there in their own state, side by side to Israel.
Christopher, there is an event that involves both of these gentlemen, as you said, for a conversation about moving forward in this conflict. How can people participate if they want to join that?
Sure. So that event is this Saturday. It's called Voices from Palestine and Israel. It's going to be at St. John's Cathedral, Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. And if people want to register to be involved, they can go to jackscathedral.org/dialogue.
I just have a question for both of you gentlemen before we wrap up. But is the belief of the group that reconciliation has to come before a sustainable peace? I mean, is that something that comes with peace? Is there a first and second?
I think it's a really, really interesting question because it's different for Israelis and Palestinians, I think Israelis would like to see reconciliation as a path to peace. whereas Palestinians would like to see first a solution and only then start the reconciliation. It's a cultural thing, I think. I think Israelis are afraid that if they start a process and there's no conciliation, this process is going to lead to even more conflict. But I think we should sit together and find a way to compromise between these two approaches.
You agree, Mohammed, that that's kind of a different approach for
Yes,
both?
because I have summer camp kids. We have summer camp continuation program meeting monthly, and I have kids aged 15 to 18, Palestinian kids, and I ask them what their definition of peace. What is what is the peace in your thoughts and what you think about peace? And most of the answers were, most of them wrote sentence, a paragraph, but in every sentence and the paragraph they said freedom of movement, and it's a human essential right, but for them it's what's called peace. So for Palestinian, freedom first, then peace, because you can't talk about peace without the freedom.
Well, I've been talking with Christopher Beachy, Development and Communications Manager at American Friends of the Parents Circle. Also, Mohamed and Yuval, members who are sharing their personal stories of loss with the larger community. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us today.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks.